Now we're going to talk about
Ah,
AI24. All right. AI24. Because Google has invested $75 million in A24, and a lot of people online are doing the Walter White in the back of the car screaming meme going A24, why? And it's like, well, actually, A24's been here. And also, one of A24's funders is Joshua Kushner, brother to Jared Kushner. So this actually should not really come at that great of a surprise or a shock. And this then gets into what I was talking about at the beginning of stream, where I think people have confused A24, the brand, the company, with the artists whose work is distributed and produced by A24. And they're like, hold on a second. I thought A24 was super based and awesome. And they're independent. They're an independent company. It's like, well, independent is not also what I think a lot of people's definitions of independent is. Okay. A24 and Google have struck an AI research partnership that will see the independent studio work. Now, don't get me wrong. This still fucking sucks. I'm not looking at this and going, it's fine, whatever. That's A24. I'm like, no, fuck this. Fuck this. So this will see the independent studio work with Google's DeepMind unit to develop new AI-powered technologies for filmmakers. Google's roughly $75 million investment is tied to the partnership and is in line with what Thrive Capital invested during the studio's last funding round. That was like Mubi, when people saw the news that Mubi had gotten a big investment with Sequoia Capital that is tied to the weapons industry that is supplying Israel with weapons that are then killing Palestinians. And people went, Mubi, what? And it's like, yeah, well, capitalism, y'all. That is even with these independent studios that have distributed or produced a lot of great films that would otherwise not have a home. They are all funded through venture capitalist firms. The partnership will give A24 access to DeepMind's research and infrastructure, while DeepMind researchers will work with the studio to build out new workflows. The deal does not give Google access to A24's content library or its data. The deal represents the latest marriage between a Hollywood studio and AI in an era where companies have oscillated between partnerships and lawsuits. Disney's short-lived deal with OpenAI to license its suite of characters came as it sued AI companies like Minimax and Midjourney for copyright infringement, while Lionsgate expanded its partnership with the AI firm Runway AI to develop new intellectual property and produce AI-generated shows drawing from its existing franchises. Netflix also purchased Ben Affleck's AI startup Interpositive, aimed at building tools for filmmakers earlier this year. God, they love the word tool. They love to use that word tool. It's a tool. It's just a tool. A24 partner Scott Belsky, who leads the studio's technology division A24 Labs, told the Journal that the studio's Google partnership differed from other deals because AI developers mistakenly advertised their products as a means to make films cheaper and faster. Mistakenly or honestly? His division is developing applications for, he's like, look, they marketed it wrong. Okay, people got freaked out because they were a little too honest about it. And the truth is that I'm going to lie to you. His division is developing applications for AI-generated storyboards, another reimagination of the production process that has seen filmmakers like Martin Scorsese rubber stamp. We think there are better uses that preserve creative control and support risk-taking, arguing that the new tools won't look anything like the prompted generation type of AI that people feel uncomfortable with. It's, you know what this is? This is also like the parallel to now the issue of Israel and Palestine in Congress, where politicians are obviously well aware of the shift that has taken place in the United States, a shift against Israel, a shift away from this idea that Israel is this great moral force and they are our greatest ally and we should support them, blah, blah, blah. So now they're changing up their language. They're trying to obviously maintain support for Israel while placating their voter bases. And so that's why they're saying stuff like, ooh, okay, sure, offensive weapons, we can talk about that. But obviously Israel has a right to defend themselves, so we're going to keep up the defensive weapons, or including more language that makes them seem empathetic to Palestinians experiencing genocide. So it's like these AI companies who, yes, they are aware that AI does not have a great reputation with a lot of people who have valid concerns over the way that the tech is being used already. So now they keep trying to, yes, it's like the same script, but almost this acknowledgement of like, look, we understand your concerns, and some of these people over here, they're the bad guys, but not us. We're good. Trust me. We believe breakthroughs happen when you get technology into the hands of the best minds in the field. Eli Collins, a vice president of product for DeepMind, told the Journal. A24 has been a landing pad for many emerging filmmakers with the critical and commercial success of its roster of films, Lady Bird, Moonlight, Everything Ever All at Once, Marty Supreme, and the recent box office winner Backrooms, owed to its trust placed in the filmmakers it's enlisted and the fervent, largely young fan base it has amassed. The agreement comes as roughly half of adults under 30 believe AI will harm society. Yeah, why do you think A24, understanding who their audience base is trying to soften the language here? How A24 replaced artists with AI.
Movie posters, compelling, tantalizing works of art, exciting, vibrant, wild images from the heart. But what about movie posters made with AI? So about 2 weeks ago, I decided to catch a Sunday matinee showing of Alex Garland's new film, Civil War. I was very excited about this title. I had been for months, and when
all this, meanwhile, Bezos recently said that if all the fresh water is given to humanity for their use, we starve our data centers, it will be bad for humanity. Wait, did he also say that? Because I know Sam Altman said that. Was it both? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I know Bezos recently was like, AI is definitely not going to replace jobs. In fact, it's going to make more jobs.
Whenever I know I'm going to see a film, I try not to see any of the trailers, avoid any spoilers. And I managed to get into this one pretty much spoiler-free. I only had a vague idea as to what the movie was actually going to contain. I exited the theater having enjoyed a true cinematic experience. The film was visceral, shocking, disturbing, and thought-provoking. I understand it's caused a bit of controversy with some of its politics, which I think is a sign of some strong storytelling. Garland's
I don't know if it was that thought-provoking.
Script feels well thought out and deliberate in the questions it's asking about journalism and its relationship and role in democracy. That's this Canadian's take anyway.
Okay.
So I posted a story about how much I liked the film, and a fellow cinephile forwarded me a brand new post from A24, the production studio that produced Civil War, and it appeared to contain AI-generated movie posters. This was extremely surprising, especially coming from A24, the most artist-driven, indie film-friendly production studio out there. If this image represents the major film studios, then this image is A24. They got kicked out of art college, stole kale chips from Costco. In short, A24 would not, could not, should not use AI. And yet they did. For an Alex Garland film, no less. 10 years ago, he wrote and directed Ex Machina, a film that deals with AI and the potential calamity it's gonna bring on humanity. A lot of people believe that total AI usage is an unstoppable inevitability.
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Major drag, huh?
So, A24 releases these promos with the single comment, America the Beautiful. The images don't—
Right, and so going back to, though, people confusing A24 with the artists who A24 distributes and produces their films. An example of this is Kane Parsons. So Kane Parsons just recently, when he went on, I think, Good Morning America, was like, why would I use AI? His stance was pretty definitively anti-AI and was like, why would I use this? That's stupid. And I think what happens then is people confuse, they confuse personal viewpoints and also then films that are anti the proliferance of AI, especially in the arts, as like the politics and belief system of the studio itself. So people are like, A24 sold out. What's happening?
Don't contain any
I thought
actual
that they were
scenes from the
against
film,
this.
and the fact that they're AI generated is actually pretty easy to spot. The geography of this image makes no sense to anyone who's actually been to Chicago. Cars don't usually have 3 doors on one side, and this swan is swole as huge, enormous swan. The comments roll in, and they are largely negative. Hire an actual artist. Absolutely disgusting. Fire the person who approved this garbage. Various unions and guilds within the film industry went on strike for this very issue, the use of AI in their industry. So it's a little bizarre for a major artist-friendly film studio to do this. Various articles come out about the posters along with some tomfoolery in a Netflix documentary, but who cares about that? It's Netflix. From the studio that brought you Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver, Netflix, no one cares. But we're talking about A24, the film studio that brought you Moonlight, Hereditary, and EEAAO. They shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, artist friendly, still a corporation that is above all else obsessed with the bottom line. And the bottom line is continuous profit.
No. Was it a joke? Some sort of commentary? According to the article in The Hollywood Reporter, a source close to the movie said the images help imagine the nationwide impact of the film's fictional war. These are AI images inspired by the movie. The entire movie is a big what if, and so we wanted to continue that thought on social. Powerful imagery of iconic landmarks with that dystopian realism.
The Bezos water data center quote was from a satire publication. Yeah, Altman did say that, and it is something that AI bros are oft repeating. So I'm like, was it? That is an example of when satire is also just reality.
So I'm sure A24 has learned by now that powerful imagery and AI generated don't really go together. Most people consider it to be low effort, low quality work. If you're not up on your AI image generators, it's incredibly easy to make a poster like this. To demonstrate, I'm gonna create a poster for A24's inevitable sequel, Civil War II: Conflict in Canada. Little did they know, the real fighting was happening up north. Let's head on over to Midjourney here. Okay, so I'm here in Midjourney, Vancouver, battle.
Artist
Civil
friendly doesn't equal
War.
artist first.
And instead of a giant swan, we're gonna go giant Canada goose in the style of a modern movie poster. Okay, there it is. I think we've got it. Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna put the text on.
I think one thing with these studios that with these companies that are trying to promote this idea that, okay, well, even if AI replaces in certain areas, there's going to be the need for people who operate these AI systems. And it's like, well, no, because it is very easy to use. That is why it has spread so much across the internet. And so that's just another line of bullshit. This idea that, oh, now people are going to transition from what they were doing before to use, like, now their job will be using these tools.
On here. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so let's upload this to Instagram and wait for the hate.
And they don't
So
care
we know
that
that
it's
AI tools
slop.
are easy and fast, which means movie studios are going to want to use them more and more. Also, AI image generation is baked into a lot of editing software now. When I make my thumbnails for YouTube, I often have to take text off of movie posters. I've been using Photoshop for years so I can mask and clone tool my way through it pretty well, but now there's an AI tool that can generate an image automatically, and the result is often better than what I was able to do manually. It is okay to be scared about this, particularly if you're an artist. But what is the answer? How do we prevail over AI artwork? In my opinion, the best tool we have is critique. When you see artwork or hear music, whether it's AI generated, made on a computer, or penciled in by hand on paper,
I would say burn it all down.
critique it, assess its merits. Good art makes you feel. So does this? The amount of time it took to make doesn't automatically make it bad or great, nor does the simplicity or complexity of the work. It's the aesthetics, intent, and execution that are key. If you feel that using AI means the execution is bad, you're right. If an AI-generated song that your friend wrote about you makes you cry, you're also right.
Gone his hair, gone. He clung to the walls where his stars still seem to linger.
No, see, you shouldn't cry at that because your friend didn't really make that.
But time peeled away, and the memories they fade.
And I'm sure it's not very good.
If you think that A24 should have hired a real artist for these images, tell them. If you think the real artists that A24 hired to make movie posters in the past were great, tell them. If you think that some of their movie posters are a little weird, tell them. Critique it all. We're surrounded by design decisions and they're not all good. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel anyway. Critique every movie poster. Celebrate the triumphs.
I thought this was a good little piece on some random person's Substack. This had, don't even ask me how I found this. I think this had like 5 likes online, but I read through it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's stop standing studios in 2026. How virality is being exploited by independent film companies. For many aspiring filmmakers, we are pushed down to earth from our dreams to land on the main path towards filmmaking. It is inaccessible, a road where success is compromised by the wills of increasingly cowardly studio executives and original art is disregarded. There is another path. It's narrow, cloaked in thorns of audience oversight and financial failures, but artistic freedom is a little bit of a safer bet. With fewer compromises for the artist, independent film companies have been able to grow in commercial and critical success. A24 is one example. The company began distributing films in 2012. Since then, they've expanded into film and television production. Neon, a film festival favorite, has joined A24 in the ranks along with Mubi, mostly known for its streaming service boasting a great selection of films. Independent filmmakers are now reaping rewards that were thought only possible for mainstream studios. Independent films can also boast a dedicated fan base, box office success, and award contenders. Film studio conglomerates led artists and audiences. You know what I was just thinking about? How in the past, it wasn't so much like, oh, I'm going to go see this new Warner Brothers movie. But instead, it's like, I'm going to go see the new Will Smith movie. I'm going to go see the new Julia Roberts movie. I'm going to go see the new Tom Cruise movie. That is the whole, conversation about like movie stars dying. There's actually still that branding, but now it's having to do with like independent film studios such as A24. So a lot of people who like A24 having its own dedicated fan base where it's not about the individual films, it's about the A24 brand being so strong. So people will now go see a film because it's A24. Where was I? Independent films can also boast a dedicated fan base, blah, blah, blah. Film studio conglomerates led artists and audiences to believe that artistic freedom was an unnatural pairing with commercial and critical acclaim. We now know that this is artificial manufacturing, an excuse to prioritize profit over engaging storytelling. Independent filmmakers and companies have a presence on social media that their mainstream rivals lack. The popularity of independent films on social media is something everyone wishes to emulate. However, once you create something with the intention of it's going viral, you have already failed. In news about upcoming films, A24 is mentioned before the director or screenwriter. In this aim to capitalize on the studio's name, publications dismiss the aim independent film has in giving more voice to the filmmakers. It also encourages a very unusual and disturbing way to discuss new art, as evidenced in this Hollywood Reporter article about an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death, set to be directed by Charlie Pollinger with Mickey Madison in talks to star. The project has been described as a quintessential A24 movie, one that likely will include eyebrow-raising, memeable scenes that should resonate among the TikTok class. Oh, this is so what? Oh my God, I hate that sentence. I hate that sentence. The TikTok class. One quick way to make yourself sound so goddamn out of touch. So, how do you do, fellow kids? Is to say the TikTok class. Oh, this is a memeable scene that will surely resonate with the TikTok class. Class? Class is in session, techers. We're going to get rid of the TikTok. Yeah, class solidarity with other TikTok users, which actually is not me, so I'm not a part of the TikTok class. A24 is not an artist, and the conflation of the studio's distribution and production efforts with the artists actually making these films is dangerous. This is a problem in culture journalism. Writers replicating the pros on social media in their writing for virality. Posts on social media using A24 film as an adjective to describe everything from an aesthetic Instagram post to Sabrina Carpenter music videos should not be inspiring journalists to mimic this text. Internet culture being placed at the forefront of art criticism is why it's suffering, and subsequently so is art. Art criticism is being offset to unqualified sycophants on social media. Press has become less about the film and more about what trends studios know about. For example, their awareness of the daddy trend on social media to describe an attractive man means that Pedro Pascal continues to be dogged by such questions, and a reporter asked Chase Infinity, star of One Battle After Another, what it was like to call Leonardo DiCaprio daddy on set. That is the reporter from Variety who gets to be on every one of these goddamn red carpets and frequently embarrasses himself. Press interviews are not so short that nothing of substance can be discussed. As evidence from the removal of the Chase Infinity interview, this method rarely generates positive buzz for the film. Virality seeks to court relatability, and relatability is what is harming the creation and criticism of art. This difference to film that independent film has brought to the industry would, of course, inspire admiration among audiences and artists, but it's hard to ignore how stan culture bleeds into the admiration and how that has encouraged the brandification of independent film companies and emboldened them to participate in typical corporate behavior. Betrayal. While betrayal might sound like the parasociality that I'm imploring us to abandon, there is no other better word to describe how artists and audiences feel to be abandoned by a space that they were led to believe prioritized them. This was the reaction to Mubi's investment with Sequoia Capital. Independent studios are beloved for their selection of distributed films, tender, original, personal narratives written, directed, and starring POC that stand out among the sequels, reboots, and remakes that mainstream studios are often producing on a conveyor belt. A24 in particular made sure that audiences knew about these films and that they were seen. There's been a concerning lack of effort to promote these narratives. Last year, it was Sing Sing, elevated by Coleman Domingo's stellar performance. This year, it was Highest to Lowest, directed by Spike Lee and starring Denzel Washington. The film marks the fifth collaboration between two of America's greatest artists, yet the film immediately went to streaming on Apple TV, preceded by an insulting short release in cinemas that did not reach past the Atlantic, excluding the international audience that A24 had created with its diverse stories. Contrary to popular belief, the limitation of marginalized people from films is not normal, and it's hurtful when companies who you believe to be empathetic to that hurt show otherwise. We were led to believe A24's introduction to film marked a new beginning that would ensure that stories that centered Black people in all their complexities could be seen on the big screen. Instead, independent film is following streaming companies' march of doom by introducing another compromise for an artist, the loss of opportunity for a cinema release. The march moves toward the path of mainstream studios. Independent film companies are straying away from an ethos that they created. They infringe on artists' freedoms just like everyone else. Once again, A24 is at the scene of the crime with their announcement of introducing an AI division this summer. Scott Belsky, so this piece was written before the Google announcement came. So this was last summer I think it was earlier this year when AI had announced AI, when A24 had announced they were doing an entire AI division. Scott Belsky, a partner at A24, stated in the New Yorker that the technology will explore the full landscape of their imagination. The imagination of filmmakers isn't limited by technology, it's limited by poor funding within the independent film industry, and it is not in such a dire place that you would invest the little funds it has into a technology that only seeks to destroy filmmakers. The lack of consideration for artists is further underlined by the responses to this investment. Daniel Kwan, the co-director and co-writer of Everything Ever All at Once, has stated that AI is fundamentally incompatible with our institutions. We're already seeing AI being used as an excuse to further exclude POC from the industry. Yeah, like fucking Tribeca Film Festival last year when they introduced, for the first time ever, we have partnered with filmmakers to, marginalize filmmakers in conjunction with, what was it, Suno or some shit, to produce short films for Tribeca. And there was a film that had a film. It was an AI slop shit that had multiple Black women, but they were not real because they were AI generated. It's like, hey, maybe it could have given opportunities to actual up and coming Black female performers. Nope. No. And instead, you are actually using this. You're actually using this as a shield to be like, isn't it so exciting? And look at these diverse films that we're making with, this is a cast that has multiple Black women. It's like, no, this isn't fucking real though. A24 is turning their back on the filmmakers that help build their name through this decision. The scorning of artists and audiences by independent film companies goes beyond corporate greed and into an absolute absence of humanity. In May, it was revealed that Mubi had received a $100 million investment from Sequoia Capital. The Silicon Valley-based firm, in turn, has invested in multiple companies such as Apple and Google, companies that are complicit in genocide in Congo as well. Sequoia has also invested in Kila, a defense tech firm based in occupied Palestine, founded in July 2024. Israel's occupation of Palestine has killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, though that figure is a very poor estimate. Those who are still alive are being starved and ethnically cleansed from their homes. For Mubi to brand themselves as accessible internationally while taking money from companies that are committing a genocide of artists in Palestine is nothing short of despicable. In April, Fatima Hassoun, a Palestinian journalist, was killed with 7 members of her family before her documentary was set to premiere at Cannes. In July, Adwa Hathaline, who helped make Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land, was also killed by Israel. The money from Sequoia may help Mubi grow as a company, but the investment is a devastating disparity to the art that it wishes to champion. Independent film companies' exploitation of virality spotlights how quantity doesn't equal quality. The number of these companies, the number of fans and funds don't ensure an expansion of options for independent filmmakers. They have hid behind our beaming praise to cloud the environment of the film industry even more. Their goodwill is so surface level that we've hit our heads on the shallow floor. In spite of that injury, we will not lose consciousness. In 2026, we put our fan merch away and put on our thinking caps. We will continue what they have abandoned to place humanity at the forefront of our art. Once again, the corporate class completely ruining something made by actual impressive people. But it's fine because the TikTok class wants the memes. The TikTok class wants the virality. And that's what we should be focusing on. Time to seize the means of production, folks. Yup. And shitting on the art director of Obsession is certainly not a step in that direction. Zachariah, thank you for the 2 months. It's a ploy to draw in more capital investment because it's pretty much the only thing Wall Street's investing in right now. Uh-huh. Yep. And there's a cynicism to investing in companies that have garnered goodwill, especially as people have more and more turned against corporations, but still kind of maintain somewhat of an institutional belief where it's like, okay, those corporations are bad, but this one is good because of the art, because of the films that for example, because we're talking about, movie, because of what is falling under their banner. And so there's certainly a cynical ploy to invest in these types of companies that have garnered more goodwill. I think this was always the plan to eliminate competition, grow to scale, garner a stand base, and dominate what's considered marginal voices and opportunities. Right. And now that's why it ties into the stanification, because Stan brain removes your capacity for critical thinking and also removes your desire to push for real radical change. When we adopt Stan brain for all things, whether they be corporations, politicians, individuals, it weakens us, which is why I know I probably seem tiresome in how frequently I rip apart Stan culture, but it's for very good reasons, which I have laid out time and time again. But it is not just in reference to pop culture. It's not just in reference to art criticism. Like this is all things. It is cultish behavior. Yes. It is the normalization of this very superficial way of viewing the world, and very narrow. It's very, very narrow-minded.